Hello, thank you for clicking on another video, the production from Habitation Systems International. I'm your host, Rich Allen, and I'll be going over some of my designs. Today, we're taking a look at the Marine Population System 10 million. I call this design the New Honolulu. So, new spelled N-U, Honolulu. um, so this is actually a design I came up with around the year 2010, and I originally built it all in SketchUp, and my most detailed version of it is still in SketchUp. So that's the one I want to share with you today because I do have another version that I built in a better program, a more modern modeling program called Blender, but the more detailed version is still in SketchUp. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to the model which is behind me here. Um, okay, so first off, so this is basically a floating island city, which would be positioned probably more than 200 miles offshore from any existing coastline, and it would have to be permanently moored down. And the city is designed to provide comfortable, safe, healthy, um, and permanent living for 10 million people. That's the key here. 10 million people. And it's very efficient, um, but still provides a very high degree of luxury and individual independence and autonomy. So there is room inside of these floors. Um, each of these floors is here. Maybe I can turn on some people. I wonder where the people are. Oh, here they are. So now you can see, like, here's the scale of people um, on each individual floor. So um, there's 10 separate decks that go end to end and full width to width. So um, those decks, go this whole, it's about 6 miles, it's 10 kilometers. So 6 miles this way, and I think it was 4 miles side to side. Um, so the long story on this design is it's actually based on a broader idea for rotating space habitats. And if you had like a cylinder shape O'Neill cylinder space colony, you could build it for 10 million people and you would have different decks around the edge. And if you rotate that cylinder, you're providing artificial gravity. Um, if you're not already familiar with that concept, it probably sounds pretty far out, but either watch some other videos of mine or you can see these things online. It's very true. Um, so this idea was taking one of my designs for a space colony for 10 million people, which would be like a cylinder shape. This is filled. Can't really use that. But so a cylinder shape is more of a cone. But if you cut the cylinder and opened it flat, that would be this floating island offshore. And that's hold on a sec. So, oh man, getting a lot of messages all of a sudden. I'm gonna have to edit it. Okay, sorry. Thanks for bearing through that with me. So once you cut the cylinder down the middle and open it up, you can take the same kind of design and put it on the ocean. This whole idea is very abstract. I know it's kind of, I'm not explaining it too well, but I'll do my best, I promise. Um, so this island, like I said, it provides a luxury lifestyle for 10 million people on the ocean, and I'll show you all the different kind of features and stuff that's included with this design, and let's see what you think. So basically, when you fly out to the island, where do you land, right? Oh my God, where you gotta have a runway to land on, right? So over here, imagine you're on a giant airplane, commercial airliner called a A380. Here's some taking off, and here's some landing over here. You fly in and land, and you taxi in. Ooh, still using my old graphics card for this video, so bear with me. Okay, so you taxi in, and here's the airport. And there are these, I guess you call them shelves on the wall that hold helicopters. And then somewhere around here, I put some military drones, which could fly out and meet potential threats. Not there. Okay. Oh goodness. I'm gonna have to remake this video like after I get my new graphics card. All right, this should pop back up. Usually doesn't take this long. Wonder where the military drones are. Anyway, so there's your airport. And from the airport, you go back into here. Now, I'm going to be revealing things that are going to not make much sense until I explain them later. But anyway, from the airport, you can see from the top, there's an elevator shaft here. It goes up and it also goes down. So we're going to take the elevator shaft down. And then from there, it will take you to the subway system, which actually hangs. Oh, it's hard to navigate through here. The subway system actually hangs underneath. And I think it has something misaligned here because you're supposed to come out when you come down from the airport. You're supposed to come out to this main hub of a subway station where you can go lengthwise or shortwise around the island. So as I zoom out, you can see that the subway system will take you anywhere in the island. There are stations every few hundred meters. So you can take direct trains, express trains, whatever floats your boat. Let me zoom in and show you what the trains look like. They're all glass on the sides. Because they're on a permanent flat track, it's a maglev system. So you don't have, there's not going to be the kind of things that you have to deal with in, say, like the New York subway system. So on the inside, of course, there would be seats, but I thought of the idea that you could use Segway, Segway, like those scooter things where you stand on it. They're actually out of production at this point, but remember, I built this model back in 2010, so it was a pretty cool idea at the time. I think it still is a cool idea. You can use the Segways to get everywhere on the whole island, because it's a big distance, you know? You can use the Segways and you can use the trains and, well, the subway systems, and you barely have to do much walking. Okay, so from there, let's say you take the subway and you head somewhere. You would come up into one of the hallways and into your own personal apartment or condo. You could buy it, you could rent it. It's, you know, whatever you choose to do. You can also combine units. You know, like there's designed for a maximum capacity of 10 million people on the island, but you don't have to have 10 million people. If one person wants to have 2 or 3 units or more that are in a row and combined, you know, they could have a huge apartment. They could have a gigantic apartment if they want. So, I don't have pulled up like what the apartment looks like on the inside, but basically picture like a 2-bedroom apartment, um, with your own door, your own private access door. Um, on the top surface, um, basically it's like a giant Disneyland. It's like a cross between Disneyland, a national park, local parks with local recreation, um, just everything recreation that you can imagine. There's no buildings. There's no need for any buildings on the top of this structure, because all the internal space is enclosed already. And one of the benefits of that is you can provide much more efficient use of heating, air conditioning, ventilation. You won't lose heat as much. You won't lose your air conditioning. You can also really like super filter all of the air. And so in those inside within all those 10 decks, you have like really excellent air quality. These windows don't open, so it's just like amazing air quality inside. And on the ends, even though you have internal living area in here, there's also like a huge kind of, I guess, a pond. It's kind of like it's supposed to simulate a beach, as you can probably tell. And I'm picturing it with like waves, like a wave generator machine on the back here, where you know the waves come up and crash on the beach. I want to show you on the other side because there's more cool stuff over there. Where is there? Here we go. This is what I wanted to show you. So on this side, you have a huge amusement park. These palm trees. I mean, to give you a sense of scale, I mean, I chose the height of the tallest palm trees on Earth. They're like 200 feet tall. These light poles, these are not like street lights. These are like, they call them light masts. When you're driving down the freeway and they have the gigantic lights, that's what these are. So everything's on an enormous scale here. And then above ground, I provided a kind of maglev system just to kind of get you around locally around the beach and recreation area. But you could have just so many, just endless attractions all the way spread out across this whole island. I mean, a lot of it would just be, I mean, you could have open fields and stuff like that, but I mean, here's some things. Here's, I think there's a zoo in here, skate park, go-karts, all kinds of recreation. Huge, here's the fountains that are from, I think there's fountains like this in Vegas and Dubai. And this right here, again, for scale, this is not just your regular Ferris wheel. This is the Singapore Flyer, which, if I remember, it's like 400 feet tall or something like that. Various roller coasters right here. And then I have set up like these general recreation zones because I picture it that people don't really have to do much manual labor, so you really want to encourage them to participate in sports, um, in real life sports, not just like virtual reality. So, yeah, there's climbing walls, skate parks, tennis, basketball, baseball, hockey, lacrosse, soccer, everything, everything. And then there's just so many of those. I couldn't figure out whether to put them all next to the mountain up here on either side or to distribute them all the way across and then have open areas between. But that's what that is. It's just all recreation. Okay, so I want to show you what's inside of the mountain. Um, so if I turn that off, yeah, so inside the mountain, you have various things here. Okay, so inside of the mountain, this whole slope right here, there's like a two-level skiing slope. Imagine that. Skiing one slope on top of another. Of course, it would require, you know, a huge amount of lattice work of metal in a support structure and everything to make that work, but it was just something I came up with. And so obviously you need to provide infrastructure as well. So over here you have where boats come in. Let me turn this on again. So boats come in here and they go underneath, and so there's cranes that just lift all these things up, all the way up. And then there's a huge cargo container farm up here. Huge. All right, so let's turn this off again. And so up here you have like, this is enough water, and this giant blue thing's a gigantic water tank, which would have to be split into smaller tanks, obviously. But that's enough water to provide for everything, for everybody. And then here you have some nuclear reactors. Nuclear is one way to go with nuclear fission. heating water for steam for the turbines, and then the steam goes up this giant chute here. But another thing that you could definitely do is solar and wind farms. Even if the wind farms are like not even on the island, they could be like 10 miles away from the island and ship the, well, I mean, there's ways to hang wires off of flotation devices underneath of the surface of the water and then string that all the way to the island, and then you could provide, renewable energy to everybody. So it's funny, like I rarely ever look, like several years will go by and I won't even look at this model, and of course I still remember everything. I did a lot of calculations to figure out how much water was needed and what would it look like. So um, up here above the airport, and this is, remember, this is inside of the mountain. So there's like sports stadiums, like professional sports stadiums that you can attend. I used the Philadelphia stadiums because I'm from Delaware originally. Um, and then another thing that's important to note is what about like trash, air conditioning, providing water and stuff? I actually created a huge water, piping system for this whole thing. Um, and of course, it takes a huge amount of work. And the biggest thing is that my computer from 10 years ago couldn't handle any of this. So that's why it's all on different layers, because I could only ever look at one thing at a time, especially on the computer that I had 10 years ago. Now my computer's a lot better. Um, I considered having lifeboats, but I mean, you would have to cover the entire bottom of the structure with these kind of lifeboat parking lots. It's huge. I mean, that's very expensive, and I mean, if this thing was really sinking, in order to get 10 million people onto the lifeboats and out from underneath before it sinks, I think you have about 50 meters between the bottom of the lifeboat and the surface of the water. Um, I don't know. It doesn't seem very practical. And then getting all those boats to shore, and then what do you do with all the people when they get to shore? So those questions made it seem like saving everybody if if the island sinks is far fetched. It's like more far fetched to try to save everybody than it is to even consider building the island. Mm, unfortunately. So, um, back to here, superstructure. Oh, and I want to show you this as well. So let me turn off some of these layers so I can free up some of the computer power. All right. All right, now I'd like to show you comparison structures. So this is really kind of cool. I have no idea how long it's going to take for the computer to bring it up, but so I put like all the tallest buildings that existed on Earth at the time when I was building this, and I took models that were already constructed in a 3D warehouse online, and I imported them into this model, and just to kind of show the size of this island versus things that you might be familiar with, like some of the tallest buildings on Earth. And here we go. Okay, so, oh, I gotta go the other way. So that big rectangle is the size of Central Park in New York, Manhattan. So you can see, I mean, to fit this many people in a, 10 million people in this size of a structure, picture Manhattan around Central Park, and then the surrounding area around Manhattan, the amount of space that it takes to provide living area for 10 million people on Earth. I mean, New York is like 8 million, 10 million people in the greater New York area. So, this is only like a few times bigger than the size of Central Park. So here's some of the tallest buildings in the world. Of course, you got your World Trade Center, your Burj Khalifa, some of the there's the New York Tower that replaced the World Trade Center. This is the Toronto CN Tower, Empire State Building. So and then over here, some of the more expensive projects ever done, like this huge airport in Shanghai, or is it Beijing? I think it's Shanghai. This is the largest building currently ever built on Earth, the largest internal space. That's where they make 747s. It's located in Everett, Washington. And here's the Pentagon. And everything in here is to scale. I made sure everything was perfectly to scale. So there's the Sydney Opera House. And you got your Statue of Liberty. And here's the one down in Brazil. Was it Brazil, I guess? I think. So yeah. So as you can tell, it's a pretty huge design. And then I envision putting this entire floating island system in the ocean, probably somewhere near the equator or not too far away, just to keep the temperature constant, like a constant factor. So and it wouldn't just be one island. Actually, imagine like having thousands of them. In fact, if you take one island with 10 million people and you multiply that times 7,000, 700 or 7,000, I think it was 700. I can't do it in my head right now, but it's like you can house the entire population of Earth in an area the size of Pennsylvania or something like that. So that is the new Honolulu Marine Population System, and I hope you enjoyed this tour. If you have any questions at all, please leave a note below, and like and subscribe. All right, thanks a lot.